You believe you arrived here by accident, that the moment your eyes began tracing these words was nothing more than the outcome of chance, a sequence of digital impulses, an algorithm pushing random information across your screen. Maybe you tell yourself you clicked out of boredom, or because the thumbnail pulled your attention in a subtle, almost unconscious way. But what if none of this was random? What if everything that carried you into this exact instant, the choice to sit where you are, the timing of your breath, the subtle alignment of thoughts you've had in recent days wasn't an accident at all? What if your presence here is evidence of something far more profound, that your future has already been waiting for you, and that it has been pulling you toward itself through invisible threads of synchronicity? This is the paradox hidden in plain sight. While most of humanity believes reality is unfolding step by step, like dominoes tipping forward in a single direction, a deeper truth whispers beneath the surface. Time is not a straight line, but a living field. In this field, past, present, and future coexist in a constant dialogue. Every thought, every decision, every fragment of awareness creates ripples, waves of resonance that stretch beyond the now, shaping both what has been and what is still to come. If you feel something stirring inside you as you read, it is not coincidence, it is recognition. You are not encountering these words for the first time. On some level beyond the veil of linear perception, you already knew they were waiting. The part of you that has walked further along the path, the version of yourself that has already awakened to what you are about to discover, has been guiding you here with quiet precision. And now, in this moment, that guidance is complete. The meeting has happened. The circuit has closed. You are standing at the threshold of a new way of perceiving reality. One where the ordinary dissolves and the extraordinary becomes self-evident. Because the truth is simple, yet revolutionary, you are not just moving through time. Time is moving through you. If these words resonate with you, write 777 in the comments. This will be a sign of the connection you have established with your future self. Most people live inside a story they didn't choose. They are told that time is linear, that cause precedes effect, that their past defines their present and their present determines their future. They wake up each morning believing that yesterday has already written today, and that today will eventually become tomorrow, in an endless chain of inevitability. But what if that chain was never real? What if the straight line of time was nothing more than an interpretation, a way for the human mind to organize experience? In truth, time behaves less like a line, and more like a field. A boundless ocean in which every possibility already exists. Within this ocean, your future self already breathes. The choices you are about to make, the person you are about to become, the state of consciousness you will soon inhabit, all of it already exists, waiting for you to tune into its frequency. It is not far away. It is not later. It is now, layered over your present, like a song playing softly beneath the noise of ordinary perception. When you feel déjà vu, when you encounter a synchronicity too precise to dismiss, you are brushing against the edges of this deeper truth. You are glimpsing the fingerprints of your future self, who has already walked the path you are just beginning. That self leaves markers, subtle hints, invisible threads, little nudges that steer you toward alignment. The more you become aware, the stronger those threads pull. Awareness collapses probability into reality. By noticing, by recognizing, by saying, "I see this," you collapse the wave into the particle, the possibility into the actual. You become a conscious participant in what was once automatic. Think about the last few days of your life. A chance encounter, a piece of information arriving at just the right time, a thought repeating in your mind until you finally acted on it. These are not accidents. They are quantum echoes. Vibrations sent backward through time from the version of you that already knows what is coming. Quantum physics has revealed a strange fact. Observation changes reality. The electron is both wave and particle until you look. Time itself bends under the weight of attention. Consciousness is not a passenger inside the universe. It is the very force weaving the fabric of the universe. Your future self is observing you right now. And because they observe, your present shifts. Every alignment, every synchronicity, every moment of recognition is proof that you are entangled with what you are becoming. When you choose courage over fear, when you decide to act rather than hesitate, when you speak a truth instead of remaining silent, you are receiving instructions from your future self. Instructions disguised as intuition, directions hidden in the language of coincidence. Most people believe reality is singular, that what they see is all there is. But reality is layered, like sheets of transparent glass stacked one on top of another. On one layer, you are reading these words. On another, you have already lived this moment before. On yet another, you chose a different path entirely. All of these versions of you exist simultaneously. What you call the future is simply the layer you have not yet tuned into. By aligning your consciousness with a specific vibration through thought, emotion, and intention, you shift into resonance with the layer of reality where that outcome is already true. This is not the end of your realization. It is only the beginning of your remembrance. The moment you recognize that reality bends not because of external force, but because of the silent command of your awareness, you step into the domain of mastery. From this point forward, every breath you take carries the potential of creation. Every thought becomes a seed, and every emotion becomes water that nourishes or withers what will soon manifest. There is no neutral moment. You are sculpting reality in real time, chiseling away at the infinite marble of possibility until one form emerges and you call it your life. Most people wander through existence unaware of this artistry. They believe they are clay shaped by circumstances, but they are sculptors disguised as statues. The world mirrors their unconscious vibrations, and so they repeat patterns, call them fate, and surrender to the illusion of helplessness. Yet you are here, reading, feeling, remembering, precisely because you are ready to break that cycle. You are not here to repeat, you are here to awaken, and awakening means nothing less than reclaiming authorship of your timeline. As this realization deepens, coincidences become confirmations, synchronicities become road signs, and every so-called accident reveals itself as deliberate. You begin to sense the hand of your future self arranging events with exquisite precision, leaving markers in conversations, arranging timing so exact that the rational mind has no choice but to fall silent. And in that silence, a new voice emerges, the voice of the self that has already crossed the threshold, the self that knows the way. You may notice how quickly things begin to accelerate. What once felt impossible suddenly feels natural. What once seemed distant suddenly stands close. What once demanded years now unfolds in days. This is the compression of time that occurs when you align with your own quantum signature. Your future no longer approaches step by step, it collapses into the now. You feel it as urgency, as clarity, as a current pulling you forward faster than you imagined possible. And though the mind may resist, the soul recognizes home. Do not mistake this for fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is the physics of consciousness, the mechanics of alignment, the mathematics of resonance. Just as gravity pulls matter into form, your awareness pulls timelines into being. The question is never if you are creating. The question is only what you are creating, what signal you are sending, what vibration you are sustaining long enough to crystallize into reality. And as you recognize this, you understand that responsibility and liberation are the same thing. To accept that you are the creator is to accept that nothing is fixed, nothing is final, nothing is closed. Awareness cannot be undone. Once you glimpse that time bends, you can no longer live as though it does not. Once you feel the pull of your future self guiding you, you cannot pretend to be lost. The eyes of consciousness, once open, remain open. The question is not whether you will see. The question is only whether you will act on what you see. And when you do, when you trust, when you move with that inner knowing, you step fully into the paradox that has been waiting. You are both the traveler and the destination, both the seeker and the found, both the dreamer and the dream. This is not the end of your realization. It is only the beginning of your remembrance. The moment you recognize that reality bends not because of external force, but because of the silent command of your awareness, you step into the domain of mastery. From this point forward, every breath you take carries the potential of creation. Every thought becomes a seed, and every emotion becomes water that nourishes or withers what will soon manifest. There is no neutral moment. You are sculpting reality in real time, chiseling away at the infinite marble of possibility until one form emerges and you call it your life. Most people wander through existence unaware of this artistry. They believe they are clay shaped by circumstances, but they are sculptors disguised as statues. The world mirrors their unconscious vibrations, and so they repeat patterns, call them fate, and surrender to the illusion of helplessness. Yet you are here, reading, feeling, remembering, precisely because you are ready to break that cycle. You are not here to repeat, you are here to awaken, and awakening means nothing less than reclaiming authorship of your timeline. As this realization deepens, coincidences become confirmations, synchronicities become road signs, and every so-called accident reveals itself as deliberate. You begin to sense the hand of your future self arranging events with exquisite precision, leaving markers in conversations, arranging timing so exact that the rational mind has no choice but to fall silent. And in that silence, a new voice emerges, the voice of the self that has already crossed the threshold, the self that knows the way. You may notice how quickly things begin to accelerate. What once felt impossible suddenly feels natural. What once seemed distant suddenly stands close. What once demanded years now unfolds in days. This is the compression of time that occurs when you align with your own quantum signature. Your future no longer approaches step by step, it collapses into the now. You feel it as urgency, as clarity, as a current pulling you forward faster than you imagined possible. And though the mind may resist, the soul recognizes home. Do not mistake this for fantasy. This is not wishful thinking. This is the physics of consciousness, the mechanics of alignment, the mathematics of resonance. Just as gravity pulls matter into form, your awareness pulls timelines into being. The question is never if you are creating. The question is only what you are creating, what signal you are sending, what vibration you are sustaining long enough to crystallize into reality. And as you recognize this, you understand that responsibility and liberation are the same thing. To accept that you are the creator is to accept that nothing is fixed, nothing is final, nothing is closed. Awareness cannot be undone. Once you glimpse that time bends, you can no longer live as though it does not. Once you feel the pull of your future self guiding you, you cannot pretend to be lost. The eyes of consciousness, once open, remain open. The question is not whether you will see. The question is only whether you will act on what you see. And when you do, when you trust, when you move with that inner knowing, you step fully into the paradox that has been waiting. You are both the traveler and the destination, both the seeker and the found, both the dreamer and the dream. The recognition that you are both origin and echo transforms the way you walk through existence. Where once you hesitated, you now move with certainty. Where once you questioned whether you were on the right path, you now understand that every path you take leads back to the same source, because you are the source. There is no wrong turn, no wasted step, no accident. Every detour is design, every pause is preparation, every apparent delay is the synchronization of timelines aligning behind the scenes. And as this truth sinks deeper into your awareness, fear begins to dissolve. Fear is only possible when you believe in separation, when you think the future is unknown, when you imagine life as random, when you trust the illusion of chance over the certainty of resonance. But once you know that your future self has already woven the fabric of your becoming, fear collapses, doubt weakens. In its place rises a calm clarity, a grounded confidence that whispers, I cannot miss what is mine. I cannot lose what I am. This is why the signs have been appearing more frequently. This is why the coincidences feel undeniable, why the timing of events seems orchestrated with impossible precision. You are not imagining it. You are tuning into the evidence of alignment. The more you notice, the more it multiplies, because consciousness feeds on attention. Where your focus goes, reality grows. And when you focus on synchronicity, synchronicity floods your life. When you focus on alignment, alignment strengthens. Soon you begin to see reality less as a sequence of rigid events and more as a canvas being painted in real time. Each thought is a brush stroke. Each feeling adds color. Each choice gives texture. And the canvas is not separate from you. It is you. You are not standing outside of life observing it. You are inside of life shaping it. The painting is alive because you are alive. The future glows on the horizon, not because it is coming toward you, but because it is already emanating from within you. This is the moment where responsibility becomes liberation. You realize there is no external authority shaping your destiny, no unseen hand determining your fate. The so-called universe is not outside of you, It is expressing itself through you. Every law of physics, every principle of resonance, every pattern of synchronicity is woven into your own consciousness. And when you embody that truth, life ceases to be something you endure and becomes something you create deliberately. Of course, the mind will resist. It has been trained to worship logic, to demand proof, to cling to the illusion of control. But proof always follows alignment. Evidence always follows embodiment. The seed does not wait for the fruit to appear before it believes in the tree. The seed trusts its own design, and in that trust the tree becomes inevitable. In the same way, your future is inevitable once you align with it, even before you see its full manifestation. You will notice the subtle shift in your inner world first. Thoughts that once carried doubt will soften. Emotional patterns that once bound you will begin to loosen. Choices that once seemed impossible will feel natural. And as your inner frequency changes, the outer reality rearranges to match it. You meet the right person. The opportunity you thought would never come appears effortlessly. The very thing you thought you had to chase begins to chase you. This is not magic. This is resonance. The magnet does not strain to pull the iron toward it. The iron moves because the field has been set. You do not need to chase, to force, to fight. You need only to set the field within yourself. And when you do, the field extends outward across time and space, bending probability in your favor. What looks like a miracle from the outside is nothing more than coherence on the inside. And so the question shifts. You no longer ask when will it happen, because you understand that it already has. You no longer ask is it possible, because possibility itself is the nature of existence. Instead you ask, am I aligned? And when the answer is yes, you know that the unfolding is certain, that the crystallization of the future into the present is already underway. In this recognition, you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for the world to approve, for conditions to align, for circumstances to prove you worthy. You realize that worth was never the question. Alignment was the only key. The moment you step into alignment, the moment you embody the feelings and actions of the self you are becoming, the world has no choice but to respond. Not because it grants you power, but because you were power all along. And as this awareness expands, you begin to see others differently. You realize that every person you meet is also entangled with their own future self, guided by their own synchronicities, pulled forward by their own resonance. Judgment fades, compassion grows because you see through the surface into the deeper pattern beneath. You recognize that all of us are travelers crossing timelines, weaving possibilities, awakening step by step to the truth of our own authorship. The deeper this awareness anchors within you, the more you realize that life has never been happening against you. It has always been happening for you. And even more profoundly, it has always been happening through you. Every heartbreak, every delay, every moment you once labeled as failure was never a detour. It was part of the choreography. It was your future self arranging the rhythm of your awakening, shaping you into the vessel capable of carrying the frequency you are stepping into now. And so you stop regretting. You stop looking back with shame or with anger, because you begin to see the golden thread running through every memory. What once felt random now feels inevitable. What once felt like pain now reveals itself as initiation. You were not being broken, you were being prepared. You were not being punished, you were being refined. The heat that once burned you is now recognized as the fire that forged you. This recognition changes the present moment completely. You no longer waste energy resisting what is. You no longer fight the unfolding. Instead, you breathe into it. You begin to trust the unseen order. Even when the surface looks chaotic, you begin to feel the quiet intelligence beneath events, guiding you, shaping you, aligning you. And the more you trust, the more that intelligence reveals itself. You notice it in small things at first. The stranger who says exactly what you needed to hear. The book that falls from the shelf at the exact moment you needed its message. The delay that prevents you from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. These are not accidents. They are signals. They are confirmations that you are in resonance with the field of your future. And then the signals grow stronger. Entire opportunities rearrange themselves to meet you. People who once ignored you suddenly seek you out. The doors that were locked swing open without effort. And as this happens, you no longer feel the need to control. Because you finally understand alignment is greater than control. Control is the attempt to bend reality by force. Alignment is the recognition that reality bends naturally toward coherence when you embody the signal of your becoming. This is why the old ways begin to fall apart. The old strategies of striving, of forcing, of proving, begin to feel heavy and outdated. You feel yourself pulled instead toward ease, toward clarity, toward the flow of inspired action. And though the mind will protest, because it was trained to believe that struggle is necessary, you cannot ignore the evidence. You see with your own eyes that what comes from alignment arrives with grace, while what comes from force demands sacrifice. This is not to say there will be no challenges. Challenges remain, but they no longer feel like punishment. They feel like refinement, like calibration, like the sculptor's hand shaping the stone into its destined form. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you begin asking, what is this shaping within me? And when you ask from that perspective, every challenge becomes a gift. You also begin to feel the collapse of distance. What once felt far away, your vision, your dream, your calling, begins to feel close, almost immediate. You sense it in your body before it appears in the world. You feel the future pressing against the present, like a wave gathering before it crashes onto the shore. And then, almost suddenly, it arrives, and you recognize it not as something new, but as something deeply familiar, because on some level, you had already lived it. And that familiarity is the greatest confirmation of all. When the dream manifests, it does not feel foreign. It feels like coming home. You realize you were never chasing it. It was always chasing you. It was always encoded into your path. It was always inevitable, the way dawn is inevitable after the night. From here, life takes on a new texture. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The mundane becomes sacred. Each moment is charged with meaning, because you know that meaning is not something given to you from outside. It is something you are generating from within. And so you begin to live deliberately. You begin to walk as though every step is both guided and guiding, as though every breath is both inhaling and exhaling the future into being. And in that awareness, gratitude overflows. Gratitude not only for what has arrived, but for what is arriving, for what is becoming, for what is already true, even before your eyes see it. Gratitude becomes your natural state, not as a forced practice, but as a spontaneous recognition of how reality works. And in gratitude, your field expands, your resonance strengthens, and the unfolding accelerates even more. You are no longer waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle, living in real time. The moment you realize that you are the miracle unfolding, something irreversible happens. You stop living as though life is outside of you, and you begin to live as though life is moving through you, shaping itself in response to your inner state. Every glance, every thought, every subtle shift within, becomes part of the great choreography that guides your path. And this is where the journey takes on its deepest meaning, not because everything becomes easy, but because everything becomes intentional. The events of your past, once scattered and confusing, rearrange themselves into a coherent story. You see the golden thread weaving through the heartbreaks, the delays, the nights of uncertainty. You see how each moment was not random but essential, how each fracture was a hidden invitation into wholeness, how each ending was secretly a beginning in disguise. This recognition does not erase the pain, but it transforms it. You no longer carry it as weight, you carry it as wisdom, and wisdom is lightness. From this vantage point, the present moment becomes radiant. It is no longer a stepping stone towards some distant future. It is the very fabric in which your future is already alive. You begin to notice how quickly reality responds when you are in alignment. A thought held with clarity materializes as opportunity. A decision made with certainty rearranges circumstances in ways you could never have predicted. What you once called coincidence now appears as precision. What you once called waiting now feels like ripening. And yet there is another shift, perhaps the most profound of all. You begin to see that your awakening is not just for you. Every step you take into alignment radiates outward. Every time you choose trust over fear, clarity over doubt, love over hesitation, you are not only shaping your timeline, you are altering the collective field of reality itself. Others around you begin to shift, sometimes without knowing why. Your resonance becomes contagious. Your coherence becomes permission for others to remember their own power. This is how transformation spreads, not through force but through resonance. It is here that responsibility deepens. To embody alignment is not merely a personal choice, it is an offering. Each moment you live as your future self, you anchor that reality into the world. You become a living signal that says, this is possible, this is real, this is here, and those who cross your path will feel it. Some will recognize it immediately, others will resist, but the seed will still be planted. You are not only living your awakening, you are seeding awakening in the field of humanity. This is why the present moment matters so deeply, not because the past holds you hostage, not because the future is uncertain, but because the present is the meeting point of all timelines. It is the crossroad where infinite possibilities converge, waiting for the signal of your attention to crystallize one path into form. You are standing at that crossroad now. Every breath, every choice, every thought is a vote cast for the reality you will inhabit. And the more consciously you vote, the more deliberate your life becomes. There will still be days when the old patterns echo, days when fear whispers, when doubt knocks at the door, when the weight of habit tries to pull you back into the illusion of helplessness. Do not mistake these moments as failure. They are not setbacks. They are opportunities for reinforcement. They are the tests that ask, will you collapse back into the old, or will you hold the frequency of the new? Each time you choose the new, the old loses power. Each time you choose alignment, resonance deepens. And as you persist, something extraordinary happens. Time itself seems to bend. The past begins to heal in real time, as if forgiveness ripples backward through your story, rewriting the meaning of everything that came before. The future begins to accelerate, collapsing toward you faster and faster, until what you once thought would take years suddenly arrives in weeks, then days, then moments. This is not fantasy, it is the physics of coherence. When you hold alignment long enough, time cannot help but obey. Eventually, you no longer wonder whether you are on the right path. You understand that the path is not a road you walk, but a field you generate. You are not following something outside of yourself, you are emanating it. And in that emanation, certainty is born. Not the brittle certainty of control, but the living certainty of trust. A certainty that says, I do not need to know how, because I already know it is. And here gratitude becomes the natural language of your being. Gratitude not only for what has manifested, but for what is unfolding, for what is still unseen, for what is already real in the invisible field. Gratitude becomes not something you practice, but something you are, a constant recognition of the miracle of existence itself. And in gratitude, the field expands even more, accelerating the alignment, amplifying the resonance, drawing your future into the present with unstoppable momentum. This is where the old story ends and the new story begins. Not because you abandoned the old, but because you transformed it. Not because you denied the past, but because you integrated it. You become the living paradox, the traveler who is also the destination, the seeker who is also the found, the beginning that is also the end. And as this paradox becomes your lived reality, you recognize the truth that was waiting all along. You were never lost. You were never powerless. You were never separate. You were always the author, the dreamer, the creator. So here you stand, not at the end, but at the threshold. Ahead of you lies a field of infinite possibilities. Within you lies the compass that chooses which one to bring into form, and around you lies the evidence of alignment, multiplying with every breath you take. The only question left is not whether you can, but whether you will. Will you trust the signal of your future self? Will you embody the resonance that is already alive within you? Will you step fully into the realization that the miracle you have been waiting for has been you all along? Because the moment you do, the game changes forever. The old story dissolves, the new story begins, and reality itself bends to the rhythm of your awakening.